At MIT, we tend to view the world a bit differently than most. Maybe it's our need to see past the obvious, or our dissatisfaction with the status quo. Maybe we're just obsessed with asking the next question and solving the next problem. Whatever the case, we believe that there's nothing in the world that can't be made better, stronger, cleaner, faster, smarter, more life-affirming, life-saving, life-improving. So we discover, teach, ponder, and manage. We build, design, and explore. We invent, innovate, create, and cure. We apply science, and we engineer the future. Because it is exploring and solving that moves us forward. It lifts us. It's what makes the world better. It's what makes us MIT.
Welcome to all of you. It's a real pleasure to have you, let's say, in this auditorium, Avenue Hoche, today for this MIT symposium. In fact, it is the first time that we organize that sort of event here with our friends from MIT. You know, Bouygues is part of the MIT Industrial Liaison Programme since 4 years, now 5 years. And it's a real pleasure to organize both, let's say, learning expedition in Boston, let's say, regularly. We were there mid of September, and we met some of professors who will be, let's say, establish a keynote today. And today we have, let's say, a strong panel of professors coming, let's say, from long states. Roberto Rigobon is coming from Australia, especially for you today. And you will see that he's absolutely genial, said their old students in MIT. But we will have also 100% Wonder Woman turntable today with Marie-Luce, Corinne, and Félicie. And then we will have and then we will have 5 different startups at the end of this meeting. So enjoy, and I'll let the floor to John for explaining what is MIT, what is MIT ELP, and what are the news.
Well, welcome. I shouldn't welcome you to Paris because you're already in Paris, but it was wonderful yesterday to walk around and be reminded of what a beautiful city Paris is. You're all very lucky. So let me get started. We're here at the MIT Paris Symposium, and we'll be talking about innovating for sustainability in a transforming world. I do want to thank all of the support that's come from Bouygues for having this conference, from Christophe and from Olivier, who will speak later, for putting together the program, and everyone else from both MIT and Bouygues that have put this program together. It's been a wonderful experience getting here, and it's exciting to actually do it. So let me move on to the next slide. Cambridge. I was going to say that we came from Cambridge, but only some of us came from Cambridge. As Christophe already pointed out, we have somebody from Australia who's come in, somebody from California, and there was one other. What's the other? Spain, of course. So we have people that have come quite a long distance to come here, and it begs the question, why do we come all the way to Paris? Is it only for the beauty of the city, or is it because there's some importance to us? It is the latter. I am going to use this as a background, so this disposition of the globe as my background. And first, I'm just going to talk about the relationship between MIT and France, which I cannot do very, very briefly in any sort of substantive way. So I'm at MIT, so we use numbers. So 1,200 graduates of MIT during the lifetime of MIT have been from France. 6,000 certificates very recently were given in the last maybe 10 years from MITx, which is our online version of education, one of the larger ones. We currently have 89 students that are French. We have 65 researchers and 16 faculty that are French, and we have 23 subject offerings, so that means courses that are either about France, about the French culture, or the French language. And finally, in the last 5 years, MIT has received about $14 million worth of funding that has come from French entities. So there's really quite a substantial connection between France and MIT, both historically and currently. So speaking of history, we have been around, that is the Industrial Liaison Program. We have been around now for almost 75 years. We were started in 1948. And the people that started ILP back then, which was simply to connect industry with MIT and to manage some of that connection, never could have quite imagined what sort of impact we would have and what sort of global reach. And today I'm going to say a few things about global reach and its tie-in to diversity. So at MIT, we have recognized for a very long time that diversity, that is the diversity of experience, of culture, of knowledge, feeds in beautifully to areas to strengthening research, to strengthening the workforce, and to strengthening community. And global reach is something that allows us to bring in more people from more places to increase our impact. So speaking of global reach, we do conferences at MIT. We did 10 of them, or yes, we've now done 10 of them in 2022. And when I ask people to raise their hand as to whether they were born in another country or whether they speak a foreign language fluently other than English, or whether they currently work in another country, we get people raising their hand, roughly a third of the audience up to about 2/3. So that represents, on one hand, the diversity that is experienced within MIT and the greater community, but also the fact that there are so many people that are coming from overseas to experience our conferences. So that's one kind of global reach. Another kind of global reach is something that we started doing only during the pandemic. So in March of 2020, in Boston, pretty much everything shut down. We were all told to leave and take our things with us so that we could set up offices at home. And within that same month, we started doing webinars. And we did 160 webinars with an average of about 4 to 5 speakers in them, so fairly lengthy ones. We did 160 of these in the next 18 months. So why 9? We did 9 in 2022. And that's because on one hand, they've been important for us for global reach. But on the other hand, the things that we managed to do face-to-face continue to bring more value to building deep relationships and to making things happen. And then finally, there's regional symposia. This is an example of a regional symposia. By the time this week is done, we will have done 7. This is the 6th, and we have one more later in the week that's in Bangkok. This picture, by the way, is of our event in Seoul. And if you look closely, you can see everyone is wearing a mask. And at lunch today, I mentioned that when I was opening up for this, that I was planning to to refer to the pandemic as something in the past, and then I stopped myself because I realized the pandemic was still very much with us, since it's a perceptual thing to a large degree. Regional conferences is the one thing that we're not able to pay for completely ourselves, and so we're always looking for people who will help with sponsorship, will help with organization, and to offset some of our resources. And so these are the different organizations that have helped out to a large, in a serious way, for our 7 regional symposia. Most of what we do is actually custom meetings. We do about 5,000 per year, and this year was a pretty typical one in that sense. We are Startup Exchange and ILP. These are very integrated programs. On one side, we have Startup Exchange's most specific activity, which is to understand and to curate MIT-connected startups for their industry readiness. And we have about 1,000 at any given time that we're working with, and a much smaller number, maybe 200 to 500 in a given year, that actually take meetings and present at our conferences. And then on the ILP side, part of the people that work in that part of the organization, we have the responsibility of forming deep relationships with our ILP members, most of them large corporations, understand their interests, understand what they're looking to do, what direction they're going in, and tie that into the knowledge, the collective knowledge within all of the people that are working with ILP members, the collective knowledge of what MIT faculty are doing and how that might tie into what the company is doing, and making connections. So in short, overall, making connections between ILP members and MIT-connected startups, and ILP members and MIT faculty and researchers. So my name is John Roberts. That's been mentioned before. I'm the executive director of MIT Corporate Relations on an interim basis, and that is home to ILP and Startup Exchange. So let me just say that it was Olivier that pointed out that our mission statements are really very, very close, Bouygues and MIT. On one hand, we have part of Bouygues' mission, which is to make life better every day for as many people as possible. Who is that familiar to? Is that a tagline that maybe everyone has some familiar with? A little bit? And then on the MIT side, we don't always refer back to our mission, but on the MIT side, part of MIT's mission is to harness MIT resources in such a way that will best serve the nation and the world. Okay, I think that brings me to an end. I did want to close mentioning that the organizers informed me that they took a very optimistic view when putting together this agenda. We do understand that the challenges are great in this specific area of research and translation and business implementation. But at the same time, we can't predict the future, and we must plan for many different scenarios. And that is it. I'm going to turn it over to Olivier to introduce the speakers. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone online who just joined us as well. My name is Olivier Cadet, and I'm a program director with MIT ILP. I have both French and US nationality, so that makes me Canadian. Any Canadian in the room? No, okay. Usually that joke doesn't go very well in some places. It's a pleasure to facilitate this first segment of the symposium and introduce the faculty from MIT who will share with us their perspective on innovating for sustainability in a transforming world. Before we dive into this topic, I have a couple of logistics details. First of all, you will be able to vote and ask questions using Pigeonhole. So we will project in a minute a QR code that you can scan with your phone, and you'll be able to ask questions to the different speakers who are going to be on stage in a minute. The code to put in is Paris22. There you go. It's just coming online. At MIT, we like to bring ideas and disciplines together to solve difficult and big problems. From the collision of ideas and people, usually good things happen and great solutions can emerge. That's what we call convergence. And I hope you see a lot of convergence in today's talks and the way we structured this agenda for this afternoon.